Adam here from the Walser Automotive Group, and what I want to do today is take you on a test drive. So next to me here, I have a 2025 Subaru Forester Hybrid. We'll look at the interior, exterior, some of the trim level specifics, then go for a spin around, see what it's like out on the road. Okay, so we're behind the wheel of the Forester Hybrid, and this is the sport trim. So there's going to be 4 different trim levels, the touring being the top. This one's one up from the bottom, but you wouldn't know by looking at the inside. There's a ton of really cool equipment and style in here, so we'll cover some of that a little bit later. Now, some of the important things to note, the Hybrid does keep the updated kind of chassis as well as the exterior styling from the non-hybrid sibling of this, but really the big difference for 25, they've added a power liftgate option that can be foot activated, so that's pretty cool. And then they've also changed the power steering rack. So I believe that's one that's shared with the WRX, so it's a little bit more noticeable when you're behind the wheel, but the Hybrid powertrain, I think adds about 14 more horsepower. So not a huge difference, maybe you can feel it a little bit more, but we'll touch on some of that more when we're out on the road. The only other big difference would be the Daybreak Blue is a hybrid specific color. This is the River Rock Pearl color, so I do like this one a lot, and there is some pretty cool colors in the lineup. But for now, let's put it in drive and we'll touch on a few different features and some of the trim level stuff when we're on the road. But before we even get going, I've got my phone with me as we always do. I've got wireless charging down here, and I've paired my phone to get wireless Apple CarPlay, and as well you can do wireless Android Auto. Now I love that feature. If you've never used it before, it is extremely safe when you're on the go. It makes it so easy to not be messing with our phones. I know we're always carrying our little devices with us everywhere, but just having the hands-free aspect, as well as the eyesight technology that Subaru offers, you know you're gonna be safe when you're on the move. Let's start with what powers the Subaru Forester. Now in the non-hybrid version, it's going to be the same 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. This one just gets 2 sort of electric motors. One that's going to drive the wheels and one that kind of serves as like a motor generator. So I believe that's a 1.1 kilowatt battery on board here. So not a ton of battery capability. And this again isn't a plug-in hybrid. This is just a regenerative hybrid system. So you don't have to worry about plugging it into the wall. If you're not ready for that, not used to it, this makes it really easy as it just kind of regens from the engine and the braking as you're on the go. Now, it is important to note that pretty much all Subarus are going to come standard with the symmetrical all-wheel drive outside of the sports car that they offer. But this Forester with the symmetrical all-wheel drive is awesome. Whether you're hitting the trail, wintertime driving, inclement weather, the symmetrical all-wheel drive doesn't really even sacrifice that much fuel economy. For this hybrid model, you're looking at 35 mpg in the city and 34 on the highway. That's pretty crazy out of what is kind of a larger wagon crossover SUV size vehicle. It's really great. The more you can stay away from the fuel pump, the better. And again, since you're not plugging it in, just using that hybrid system really does help you get the best possible fuel economy. Let's start with the exterior. So you've got your premium, and then jumping up from here, this is the sport trim. So this one gets the bronze 19-inch wheels on the exterior. There's also some kind of bronze accents that run around. Does look really cool. Like I said, this is the River Rock Pearl, this gray color, and with the bronze, it works really nicely, and when the sun hits that pearl just right, it does look really pretty cool. It kind of runs from the bumper to the side panels here, and then you just get a little bit more accenting on the back of the vehicle. Now some of that also does come inside, which we'll touch on in a little bit, but if you don't love the bronze, there is a few different trim levels, whether it's the limited or you jump up to the touring, which is going to be the top tier trim level. There's a lot of equipment you can either take away or add to these Forester hybrids. From the rear of the vehicle, like I said, they added the foot activated tailgate for these models, so that would be optional, but even without it, there's a little button you can click. There's a button on the key fob you can click to open that power tailgate. It does make it really easy to use. Plus, there's actually a little light up above. So if you're out camping, doing something at night, trying to see in the back, that little light just kind of helps you out so you can see what's going on back there. And as well, this one's got the cargo cover that you can pull closed, which is nice if you want to keep stuff out of sight from the exterior of the vehicle. Now there is also quite a bit of space. Now obviously they had to put the battery somewhere, so in the back of the vehicle you do lose a little bit of room under that cargo area, but there's one kind of deep pocket in there, and then this one would get the tire mobility kit as well, which is just kind of hid off to the left side behind a little cubby. There's also a 12-volt plug back there, so if you got the cooler or something you want to keep charged up, that's pretty nice. And then it's a 60-40 split rear seat, so you can actually kick down one side or the other. Makes it really easy to haul stuff, whether you got your bike in there or you've got the roof rack rails up above, so you can put the mountain bikes, put the boats up above. If you got the kayak you want to go out, hit the water, that is pretty cool. And there's a lot of space in here. That's one thing I noticed where I'm 6'1", even in the back seats, these are some of the most comfortable second row seats in this segment. I have headroom back there. I've got tons of knee space. There's also vents, whether it's for the kids or for the dogs, and you've also got some charging capability back there as well. Like I said, if you crawl up the trim level a little bit, you can even add heated second rows, which is pretty nice for the rear passengers. Now, on to the driver's seat. So the Subaru Foresters and the Outbacks, I mean, they drive so nice on the road. I always tell people if they're looking for a new vehicle, it's one of my highest recommended vehicles just because how comfortable and quiet and kind of compliant they are on the road. You don't get a lot of that kind of swaying around. They just feel really stable. Maybe it's that power steering rack update from the WRX, but this one just has such a good road feel to it. And Subaru has always had such a good job of kind of nailing that segment of the vehicle. When you're behind the wheel, you feel very safe and comfortable, and that makes it a pretty big deal and makes it really great to eat up a bunch of miles. Now we do have to also touch on the Subaru EyeSight technology. So the EyeSight is Subaru's safety suite, and it adds so much equipment to these vehicles. There's so much standard safety and performance onto these vehicles, but I mean just a few things like blind spot monitoring. This gets the adaptive cruise control system. So right on the steering wheel here, you can set that just on the top right of the right side, and that's gonna kind of set 4, 3, 2, 1 distances ahead of you. It will keep that distance when you're on the road, and you also have a lane departure warning or mitigation system. So there's a lot built into these, whether it's you and your family in the vehicle. Obviously you want to make sure you're safe, and the Subaru Forester Hybrid certainly delivers on that front. But let's get into some of the technology. So like I said, with the wireless Apple CarPlay, text messaging, Google Maps, all that is built right into there, which is really great. And then one of the other cool additions is the new, I think it's a 12.5-inch display, which is a digital gauge cluster. So on the left side of the steering wheel, you can kind of press and hold this button. That can actually show you your maps in here as well. So if you got your navigation pulled up, you can even have it on both screens, or if you want the radio controls on one, then you can click and hold it again, and then the little joystick on the left kind of shows you all of your pertinent information, whether it's that nav stuff or your trip computer, what you're listening to, even some of the hybrid settings, how the power is going through the vehicle. That's a pretty cool thing. You can keep your attention on if you want, and you're not messing with it down here. It's kind of in your line of sight, which is really nice. These StarTech seats are so comfortable. So this is actually a power seat on my side. I've got lumbar control over here. Again, you bump up a trim level. This is just a manual seat in the Sport, but you can get a power seat on that side as well. But the heating element, it was a little chilly this morning. So you've got the 3-level heated seats that you can kick on. They heat up very nicely. This StarTech has been out for a while now, and I've seen it wear really nice. I've heard people, if you got the kids in the back especially, spilling ice cream, spilling a bunch of stuff in the back, you can simply just wipe it off. It doesn't really wear maybe as like kind of harsh as classic or typical leather would. So I really like this material. It's comfortable and it looks cool. It's kind of a two-tone gray in here with that bronze or sort of an orange stitching. It looks really good, and I think it does make a pretty big difference over just the premium model. So the ride and drive, like I said, kind of whipping around here. They're just, you can almost hear the stuff flying around in the back, but they're just fun vehicles to drive. Subaru obviously makes some sports cars, so you know they're capable of making easy to drive, fun vehicles. And you get a lot of that in the Subaru. And that's what I really like about these. I mean, it's really quiet in here. If you compare this to most other vehicles in the segment, I'd be willing to guess that the interior volume on the Subaru is noticeably quieter than when looking at other models. But there's also a lot of safety in here, a lot of technology, and I think pretty good looks on the outside. But there's just a few other little things, like the large sunroof. It's not a full panoramic, it's kind of like a 3/4 sunroof, but it does give you a nice open feel, especially with the darker interior. If I opened it up right now, you guys probably wouldn't even be able to see me because it would be so bright in here, but that's pretty nice. When it's gonna be a nice day, like 75 degrees, you wanna have the sunroof open, windows down. That is definitely a nice feature to add in. Now on the steering wheel here, it's kind of that leather wrapped feel to it, but it's got a few different drive modes. So you've got the S and the I, just kind of sportens it up a little bit. Like I said, just a little bit more horsepower with the Forester Hybrid. Obviously you're not racing this one around. You're probably looking at a WRX if you really want to have some fun, but it does kind of add a little bit of spiciness to the drive. Now, one other thing with that is the X mode in here. So what X mode does, you've got snow and dirt, and then you've got a deep snow and mud. So that can kind of fine tune the driving style to make sure you're getting the best possible bite and traction out of the vehicle. It's pretty cool. It does work really well. I've tried it before in the snow. So that's an awesome feature that just comes into these Subaru Foresters. Now, another one of those things would be the maps. So this is going to have kind of the built-in, I think it's a TomTom navigation system. So it does work if you're not using your phone. You can have that in here. You can search for stuff. You can also do voice controls on the steering wheel. So that makes it pretty nice to, again, not be messing with your phone when you're on the go. So obviously there's not a lot or a huge difference between the regular Subaru and the Forester Hybrid. Now, if you want the best possible mileage, obviously this would be the way to go. But if we're looking at price-wise, MSRP on this Sport right now is going to be about $40,900. So the paint's a little bit more of an expensive upgrade. So if you don't want the fancier paint, you can kick a little bit off the price that way. So right around that kind of $40,000 range, it's a lot of vehicle for the money. If you're looking at the average new car price right now at about $50,000, you're taking 10 grand off the top. You're still getting wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, pretty much all the safety features you can imagine in a vehicle. I think great style on the exterior, and inside, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to get out of a German luxury SUV and hop into one of these and not feel like the same ride and drive. It's quiet, it's comfortable, everything is easy to use. You could throw anyone the keys, they'd easily be able to hop in this vehicle and figure out how that stuff works, or how anything really works in here, and that's a big kind of benefit for even day-to-day use. 95% of the time, if it's just you in the car, maybe you're running to the gym, running to the grocery store, power liftgate, plenty of room in the back seats, or if you're gonna go out on the campsite, got the mountain bikes up above, this vehicle really does offer a lot, especially at this price point. So I think if you're in the market, you want to get out, take one of these for a spin, maybe you're comparing it with Honda, Toyota, any of the other vehicles, I think this is absolutely one to add to the list to come out, take for a spin, and see what you think. Now that was just a quick look and drive at the new Forester Hybrid. Now if you have any other questions or you'd like to schedule a test drive, you can stop by either one of our Subaru locations or visit us online at walser.com. Thanks again for watching.